I started to start it out by playing a real pretty Christmas tune, but since I had my cataract surgery, I cannot play a note. So, anyway, hold on. This is the story of how all of our kids came to be. Okay, now let's go back a little bit and show you that you had ancestors. And hold on to this just a minute, Gramps, let me get the ancestors. Okay. This is the story of Court and Melba and how all of this begetting began. First of all, we will go back to your great-grandparents. Okay, this is some of your kids. This is your, now let me get the ones that's great-grandparents. This, I'm gonna bring it forward. This is your great-grandmother, Marietta Edwards. That's your grandmother's mother. And then I've got a picture of her daddy. Okay, this is a picture of your great-grandfather, James Henry Edwards. Okay, now we don't have any pictures of your daddy's, of Court's grandparents and all. Their house burned when they were small, so all the pictures, but you'll have to take our word for it that, you know, they lived and existed, and each one of you have an ancestry that has been drawn up. But I want to let me read a little of this. And
I gotta turn the light off. It's just a flashing over here. Ain't gonna do no good anyway.
Something always doesn't work.
Okay.
But anyway, first of all, we'll go back to your great-grandparents, and like I said, I'm sorry that we don't have a picture of Grampy's grandparents, but his anyway, you have a rundown. Each one of you have a copy of all of the family tree from the Wagner family, and then his mother was his Grampy's grandparents was Will and Rosanna Mower, and his grandmother's name was Templeton Moore, Rosanna Templeton Moore, and they're all buried out at the Old Craig Cemetery out on the High Bank Road, and here in Union County, and now, just how Papa and Mama met, I'm not really sure at all. All I know is that they did, and they married. And this is the largest picture that I can come forward with right now of Mama and Papa. But anyway, they were great people, and they had a lineup of 5 children. There was a cat, and then Court, and then Johnny, then Mary, then Faith. Okay, this is an old picture of them when they were poor. Remember, poor Assembly of God preachers up in the hills of Arkansas, and this leaves out Faith. I believe is the only one that's not on here. But this is a picture of hard times. I want also to show you a picture of, let me see where I am down here. And anyway, they were Papa was a poor Assembly of God preacher, and they moved around a lot, but they finally settled near Swartz, Louisiana, down near Monroe, and for most of their school years. The way that Court and I met was I went with his cousin Marcel to a singing convention on the campus of Northeast Louisiana College at Monroe. His whole family met with us there, and that was in July of 1941. Well, you'd have to say it must have been like, at first sight, wouldn't you say so?
Something like that.
At first glance. He was just ready to go into high school, his senior year in high school, and he was big stuff, let me tell you. Wait, I've got another sheet that, if I hadn't lost it, that goes in there. I had to find it. Now this is all. Okay. He I'm lost here, but trying to follow all of this. But I didn't go ahead. Now I want to back up a little bit. I wanted to tell you that about your grandparents on my side. That was Leonard and Jessie Mae Cates, and mother was the daughter of James Henry and Marietta Edwards, and she had two brothers, Bruce and Harry. Now, her folks came from around Appleton, Missouri. This is an old picture of Granny and Grandpa Edwards, and that is your grandmother Jessie Mae, Harry, and Bruce. Now, for Leonard and Jessie Mae, here we go. And that was them at their 50th wedding anniversary. So they had a long, happy marriage. And I have a picture also I want to use that this was Mother Jessie Mae when she was 3 years old. This is the one that they say mirrors look so much like. But this was her when she was 3 years old. Now, let's go on and get into ours. I'll go back now, and by the way, this is a picture of me when I was a baby. And you remember that I was born back in hard times, you know, back in Depression years. So the hair's missing. See, no hair. All right. Now we're going to go back to that meeting at on the university at Monroe. Now, I told you that we met there, and that we just instantly liked each other. But that's just about all that it amounted to at that time, because he lived in Monroe and I lived in El Dorado, and that was a long ways from where we were. Cut it off just a minute and let's see where we've been, and let me get a chance to find out where I am too. I was going to tell you the story of how we met, and I told you that we met on the campus of Northeast University, and there was a great big singing convention, and I went with his cousin Marcel's family down there, and all of his family came up, and we all spent the day there together. So like I said, it must have been like at first glance, at least it was not love but like at first glance, because we things now remember because when he got ready to leave that day, well, he gave me a kiss right here on the cheek. Now I think he had read that story about the handsome prince and kissing the frog, and she turned into a beautiful princess, because I saw him look down and say,
That's her
hey,
story.
Hey, what about the princess part? And he said, well, look, I thought I heard you say that I thought I heard that you promised me that you'd turn into a beautiful princess. And the frog said, oh, come on, you don't still believe in fairy tales, do you? With that.
That's her story, not mine.
I promised you a reasonable looker, and well, compared to these Louisiana girls that you're used to, she looks pretty good to me. But anyway, about 3 weeks or 3 months or something later, I got a letter and a picture of this handsome prince that I had met, and he asked me if he could see me again. So just as soon as he could save up enough money to come from Monroe to El Dorado, we had our first date. Meanwhile, we corresponded by letter. Well, he got the money. This was July, and he got the money saved up in December of that year, wasn't it?
Took about that long.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's what it was. And gotta get on the right page now. Oh yeah, I got some pictures too. I got some pictures of when we first met. When he finally got there to see me. This was made on our first date. Now, see, when you say that's a handsome prince, I would. Now, this was that big stuff. This was that senior, high school senior. Man, talk about a heartbreaker. He was a heartbreaker.
That's her story, not mine.
Okay. Now then, I think I've got myself all mixed up again, which, as you all know, is nothing unusual. But I gotta move on over so I can tell you a little more about. Oh yeah, back to my real story of how you all came about. Okay, we courted through the late 1941s. From about September and until about September 1942, and at that time Court went into the Air Force, where he was first sent to Fort Myers, Florida. Okay, you go from there now and tell them about all your training.
Well, I went through boot camp at Fort Myers.
Okay, and from boot camp?
And no, that wasn't at Fort Myers.
Clearwater.
That was Clearwater.
Okay.
And we were housed in the largest wood structure hotel in the world. It wasn't used as a barracks then, not a hotel, but they said when it was used as a hotel, or after it was closed, that the guard had to, he used a bicycle to ride the halls. Then I went from there to Fort Myers to gunnery school. And I went from gunnery school to Salt Lake City, and went through radio school in Salt Lake City. And then from Salt Lake City I went to Tucson, Arizona, and that's where she caught up with me. She chased me all those different areas, and she finally caught me. She finally caught me in Tucson, Arizona. That's where we were married.
But you were in school then for?
I was flying radio operator on B-24.
On B-24s, and you had advanced to the rating of staff sergeant with flying pay.
Yeah.
Boy, now that was big time. Well, we would have gotten married before he left, but we didn't have the money. And I had one semester to go in school, and after he finished his radio operator training and was promoted to staff sergeant with flying pay, boy, we were in the money. And at Christmas 1942, we officially got engaged with a ring, mind you, and were bound and determined to go ahead and get married. So he sent me money for a bus ticket to Tucson, Arizona, and I was going to go to Tucson, and we were going to get married. But now my mom and daddy, raised from the old school and raised me right, they weren't going to have none of this going on. So mother scraped together money enough and rode the bus with me, and it took us 4 days to get to Tucson, Arizona. But we finally got there, and so we went straight to the Pima County Courthouse and was married by a judge there in February 17th, 1943 in Pima County, Tucson, Arizona. And he must have done a pretty good job of that, don't you think? And since I thought about it, with a judge, he might not have been pronounced to death. He might have done a sentence, a life sentence.
It's a lifetime.
Anyway, Mother left the next day for that 4-day ride back to El Dorado from Tucson. But following the wedding that day, listen, we had a big celebration. We went to a restaurant there in Tucson, the one that had white folding napkins, and we had, you remember what we had to eat?
No.
Oh, we had hot roast beef sandwiches with mashed potatoes and gravy and a white napkin to put across our lap, and they cost $1.75 a piece. Now that was really a big occasion. Anyway, we had one little room with kitchen privileges and bathroom privileges. But after a month in that room, we moved on into another one, and that room had a double bed. The other one had twin beds. And soon after that, the Air Force found out that Court was colorblind and grounded him, and which took both reduced his rank and also his flying pay. So man, we went from tall cotton to dragging in the mud. So I had to get out and get a job, but fast. But I got one in a 5 and 10 cent store, or Crest store, I believe was the name of it, in Tucson, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. Okay. We stayed in Tucson from February until October, and then they sent Court to McCook, Nebraska, where we stayed again in one room. Go ahead and tell them about that one room that we had and what it was like.
And this was in the winter.
And what kind of town it was. Tell them. Describe
this was in the winter time, and you know, anybody that knows anything about Nebraska knows it's a little bit cold in Nebraska.
No, not a little bit cold.
And of course, we didn't have. We had to walk about 6 blocks to town to catch a bus, because to the base, and she had to walk that far to work. We did not have, they didn't have buses in there. We couldn't afford taxis. But we survived. We didn't have a refrigerator, but we'd put Cokes. We wanted to have Cokes, we could stick them in the window. And if we didn't leave them too long, then they'd be fine.
But now listen, you was really careful about not letting them freeze, because they were a nickel a piece, and nickels were hard to come by. But we spent most of our time from time he came in from the base, and when I got off in the evening from work, we went to the USO club there, where you could play ping pong or dance, play records and things like that, and stay warm. That was the main thing. You could stay warm, because back in our room it was heated by one of these cold furnaces down in the basement, and the accent was on cold, because our room you could sleep in your coat and still be cold. But the mayor and his wife took a real liking to us, and they spent a lot of their time down at the USO, and a lot of evenings they drove us home, so that we didn't have to walk all that way, because we didn't have anything that was called overshoes or boots or anything like that. We just had shoes and lightweight coats. The Court had an overcoat because the Air Force saw to that, but I had Arkansas clothes. But we stayed on in McCook, Nebraska, in that one room, and I worked the 5 and 10 at the store. By the way, I made about $18 a week, and for breakfast we each had a donut and coffee, and I had hot chocolate. But Court had all of his meals. He saw to it that he stayed on at the base long enough that he had all of his meals at the base, because he could get them free, and I had to pay for mine, so I had a sandwich at the store every evening before we left. And they always served some cookies and some coffee and punch or stuff down at the USO, so you could always count on going on down there and finishing, getting enough to tide you over. We lived, those kids already told you about our walks home from how cold it was. But he left there in January 1944 with snow still on the ground. He left for port of embarkation, and I left for home. Boy, that was a sad day. When our first anniversary rolled around, you tell them about it.
Well, we were at port of debarkation, but we were restricted.
No phone calls, no letters, no nothing.
We couldn't get anything out. We couldn't couldn't make any phone calls, and in fact, we couldn't even tell them where we were. In any mail that went out, it couldn't say where we were or what date it was or anything. So our anniversary, we spent that alone and couldn't even
But
talk to
he looked ahead. This is the way he looked at that time, when he had some. But he had looked ahead and knew that he was going to be confined. So he had sent money to Aunt May and Uncle Bruce to buy roses, me a dozen red roses, and they bought me the roses and that crystal vase that we used on our anniversary, and that was our first anniversary. Okay, and then I want to from there on he was sent overseas. Now I'm going to let him tell you about his trip over and landing and what he did overseas and all of that.
Well, we went over on what they call a Liberty boat. It was a small one that really wasn't designed to carry. They were more designed to carry freight than they were troops.
Well, that's what y'all were, was freight.
That's what we were. We were freight. And right out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, where the guidance system, the rudders or whatever, went out on the thing. And during those times of the war, they were having a lot of trouble with submarines in convoys, torpedoing convoys. Well, the convoy don't stop when one ship goes out of commission. They went on. They left us sitting back there by ourselves
Sitting ducks.
For somebody so they could fix that thing. But they did leave a PT boat. There were 2 PT boats that stayed back with us. Then finally we did get it fixed and went on to catch up with the convoy, and we landed in North Africa. And that's where we got off in North Africa, and we spent 6 weeks there. And we were ready to go, and we were going into Italy, and they'd carried us to the dock, and we boarded a ship, and everybody was ready to go, and all of a sudden they unloaded us off of that ship and carried us back, put us on trucks and carried us back to the camp. And incidentally, that's the hottest place in the daytime and coldest place at night I've ever seen. But the whole of that ship was loaded with mustard gas. So we had to get off, and we went on later in another boat. And then finally we got to Italy, and that's where I spent the rest of my time till ready to come home.
But you did. You didn't have active duty. I mean, as far as combat, I don't mean active. I mean combat duty. You was a tower.
I was control tower operator because I'm colorblind. They'd already grounded me.
Okay. And then you stayed on there and until they sent you back overseas in 1945, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Took me back home.
Back home to be mustered out.
If we
because
landed
the war was
it,
over.
We come back into Boston, Massachusetts, and from there we rode a train to Hattiesburg, Mississippi.
And that's where you was mustered out.
And
that's where you became a civilian again.
That's where I became
a real civilian.
In fact, I was walking down I walked into the barracks. I'd been to chow, and I walked into the barracks and went by some guy in civilian clothes. I couldn't figure out what's a civilian doing. You know, I got by him and looked around. It was Odie. And
Odie and Elton, my 2 brothers, had brought me down.
No, just Odie.
Just Odie? I thought there was both of them. See, it gets bad when you get this CRS.
I'm not going to touch that one.
But anyway, he was mustered out in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and so we. So we left from there and came on back to West Monroe and dropped us off at Cat and Benny's house in West Monroe. And then
well, we spent the night there.
We spent the night there. So remember, he'd been overseas 3 years, and so this was first time back together. Well, we must have conceived at that time, because about 9 months later we had a little baby girl. And in fact, that was November of 45, and August of 46, Miss Sherry Ann Wagner was born. She weighed 9 pounds 15.5 ounces, and the most 8 pounds, excuse me. She was one of the little ones. 8 pounds 15.5 ounces, and the most wonderful event of both of our lives. Nothing could touch this. We were parents of the smartest, most beautiful baby in the whole world. Nothing this wonderful could ever happen again. But you know it did. In January 1954, we lived in Texarkana, and we had Gary Ray Wagner came into our lives. Just absolutely beautiful. And you could tell by looking at him how smart he was. And he weighed 9 pounds and 5 ounces. Imagine that. Now we had 2 of the prettiest and smartest kids in the whole world. No one could be so lucky. But you know, we were again on March the 5th, 1961. Randall Wayne Wagner came into our lives. 9 pounds 4 ounces. And just one look at him and anyone could tell he was easily the most beautiful baby in the hospital. And you could already tell how smart he was. How lucky could one couple be? Now, we had a daughter, and then that was in her last year in junior high. We had a son in grade school, in the 1st grade, and now we had a beautiful baby boy. We were as proud. No one had ever had such wonderful children. The Lord really loved us, and just when we thought our cup runneth over, April 27th, 1962, the Lord smiled on us again and sent us our Tammy Jill Wagner, weighing 8 pounds 4 ounces. I got to check that weight. Just gorgeous, and one look told you she was going to be just the most brilliant thing in the whole, just like the others were. One thing for sure, we had never suffered at our house from boredom. We had high school kids in and out of our house, grade school kids. We had
lifetime membership in the PTA.
We had bottles and diapers and first steps and first teeth and all of this kind of thing all went on at the same time. Boy, it was busy at our house. I needed right to I was going to tell you a little bit about I wanted to tell you about the personalities as I go on along, and I've skipped the page here because I think because you all got that video that was So Sherry, This Is Your Life, you know, up to about 5 years or so. But anyway, I want to tell you that Sherry was always, of course, the real what's the word I'm trying to use? I mean, she was always so lively, and an actor, a Kelsey right now, if you will. I mean, she had imagination. She was so photogenic. She even won a baby contest when she was a year old, didn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah, got a cup to prove it. But she was always an actor, and she was when she was 2, and she had an imaginary friend. And every time anybody came to our door, well, she would go twisting off to the door, and she'd talk to whoever was at the door, and then she'd say, "Have you met my little friend Connie? This is Connie." And they'd look at her and look at us, and they'd say, "Uh-huh, yeah, okay." But
we're people.
But anyway, she had the imagination, and by the time she was 5 years old, boy, she could square dance her way around any adult around, because we were in a square dance club and we're dancers, and so she went with us everywhere we went. We didn't know what a babysitter was, because everywhere we went, she went to. First place, we couldn't have afforded one, and second place, that's the only place we ever went. But anyway, she learned to square dance just as proficient as anybody did. but when she was 6, well, they made us start at her school against my better wishes. I never wanted to start any of them to school. I wanted to keep them at home. But anyway, we started her school. But she was so smart until the teacher started saying, would you send extra her little dot-to-dot books or her other little books? Said we can't keep her busy at school. Said she's through with her work so fast. But you know, when she was in the 2nd grade, what they had the nerve to do? They let her get chicken pox. I was so mad with them. But anyway, she was terrific. So that's a little about her personality. And I want to tell you about we told you about all the activities that we had, the varied activities that we had going on around our house all the time. And about along, let's see, Sherry graduated from high school. Must have been, let's see, Randy was born, she was in her first year. Tammy was born, she was in her first year of high school, so that was 62, so she must have graduated from high school in 64, right? No, 64. 65. No, couldn't have been right. 62, 63, 65, about 65. Anyway, she was part of the first class to graduate from the new high school there in Alberta High School. So, and then, okay, then she's graduated from high school and she's going to go to college. Going to go to college? Where in the world are we going to get the money to send her to college? Well, we were going to send her because she planned to be a teacher, and that was part of the plan. So somehow the money had to come. So about, I think it was 64 that when you started traveling back on the road and took the line of Helen Harper sweaters. Now, they were made in Boston, weren't they? Somewhere up there in a cold climate. They were heavy, beautiful sweaters, but they were heavy. But anyway, they when they sent out the salesman samples, they charged them to them, and they used them until they finished taking all the orders, and then they said, okay, now we're through with these. So well, I have this written down somewhere. He went back on the road and would start traveling with Helen Harper and heavy sweaters. And he finished his first season, and they released the first samples, which meant that we could dispose of them. That was the day before Easter in 1965. So I got on the phone, called up a bunch of friends, and introduced them to buying wholesale. Did we show them Sherry's baby pictures and Gary's baby pictures? I mean, we haven't got to Gary yet, have we? We just got to Sherry.
We haven't shown Sherry's baby pictures.
Well, we've got baby pictures. She was born, and we got some baby pictures of her. Hold on there and go ahead and tell them about the samples.
Well, you can talk while you're up there. They can hear you. We're slightly organized.
Well, I got pictures out everywhere. I've got pictures just everywhere, but you know, we have got one,
this is her project, not mine.
We've got a few pictures of Sherry. It's just that, you know, we can't find them always. This was her first studio picture. Wasn't she gorgeous? Look at those brown eyes and that black hair. Isn't that the prettiest baby you ever saw? By all means, it was. Okay, now, I told you about that they released the sweaters. So I called in the friends and I introduced them to this thing called buying wholesale, and they loved it. On the tag of each one of them had the price of what the stores paid for the sweater, you know, wholesale. So I figured out I could sell them that, and I'd add $1 onto each one of them for all the trouble I had to go to. Well, now the samples cost us half what was on the tag price. And then by the time but listen, they went out of there with those sweaters, and I mean, you're just sweating like everything that day because it got hot up during the day. But they took those sweaters out of there by the armloads, $100 and $150 at a time. Well, I knew right then exactly how we was going to put her through college, and all the rest of them, for a matter of fact. That's again, I was going to tell you about how active Sherry was through school in campfires and thespians and all this kind of stuff and all. But when she was, well, I got to go in here somewhere because we're along about this time. When she was, when she was 7.5 years old was when Gary was born. And that was some occasion. We were so proud. This is him when he was a year old. I got some that's even, better than that. But that was when he was a year old. And everybody, okay, let's talk about Gary. Gary was of the TV generation. I mean, the same year that he was born, the TV station came to Texarkana. And that's where we lived at that time. And they opened the TV station there, and we had a friend that had a business there, and he helped us to buy, let us have on credit a TV set. So we had a new baby, and we had a TV set, and we had, our daddy had gone back to traveling again, and he was selling shoes at this time. So this is I should have got this in before I got Sherry off to college. But anyway, I'll go ahead and fill it in anyway. But he was a TV kid from the time he was born, and we got after we got
till 4 or 5 till 5 o'clock in the afternoon. You didn't have anything but test.
But everybody turned on the TV, but all there was on it was this little test pattern. But they sat and watched it until about 5 o'clock, and then it came on. But he was it was really a real phenomena because everyone turned on and just watched that test pattern for the first program, watched and waited for the first program to come on. Gary was TV child from the very beginning. From the time we moved from Texarkana back to El Dorado, he was about a year old, and his ritual was to watch Captain Kangaroo and eat his breakfast. His favorite breakfast was either sugar toast with milk on it or crushed graham crackers with milk on them. And from the time he was about 4 or 5, his favorite program was Sea Hunt with Lloyd Bridges. And he would put a pair of his little underpants over his head, put his face like a swim mask, and boy, he could swim across that living room floor and capture the bad guy before you could turn around. We called him Lloyd Bridges a whole lot, but he was so smart. He only went 1 semester to kindergarten, and one day they were trying to teach him to use the telephone, and they were trying to teach them to dial the numbers to the fire department and to report a fire. So when it was his turn, he had dialed his number successfully, and at that time we had a grocery store down on South Washington. So he got his number dialed and was ready to report the fire, and he could not think of the street number for the store, and he kept saying, the fire is at the store. And after a while he said, you'll know it when you get there because it's the only one on fire. So they got it. I'm just going to skim through and tell only a few of the memorable things while each one was growing up, mostly because I want them on record, and I want you to know about them. Gary played boys club baseball all through his grade school years, and one year they were losing so badly that they put him in to pitch. Now his position was catcher, and he was really good at that, but they were losing so bad until the coach decided to put him in as pitcher. Well, he pitched 1 inning, I believe it was, wasn't it? And every time he threw one, it was, every time he threw 4 pitches, it was a walk. And then, or if he got it near the base, they'd hit it clear out in the field. Oh, it was murder on 5th Avenue. And when that inning was over, his pitching career was over. He went behind the dugout and he threw up clear down to his shoes. But he didn't care for that pitching bit. Then wait a minute now. He played basketball too, and about the first year that he played, he got the ball, and he successfully dribbled all the way down the court and was just ready and did. He sunk a basket. Oh, it was such an exciting time till he found out that he had gone to the wrong end of the court and sunk it for the opposing team. But he lived over that anyway.
I gotta get a drink of water. You go on.
I want a Coke while you're. And he wouldn't go out for high school football because he knew if he did, he'd just die of embarrassment. That is, he knew that knew his mama well enough to know that the very first time that he got the ball and they all landed on him, that the first thing that he'd look up and see was his mama coming out over that side of that bleacher, and he would just die. Let's move on to junior high for him. He played football. He played. No, he didn't play. He didn't play football because, like I told you, he wouldn't do that because he was. But he played drums. Now he was a drummer, and let me tell you about their big band that they organized. When they were in junior high, the year they was in junior high, one of the years they was in junior high, Randy got a little toy trap set for, thank you dear, boy that's saved my life, for Christmas. So that just gave them all an idea. Gary and his friends all lodged over at our house about half the time anyway, so they gets their make-believe instruments, and the ones that did have instruments all got together and they started to jam or play. And so they decided that was going to be lots of fun, and there was lots of future in that one. No telling how much money they could make. So anyway, that led to a real trap set, and then the boys that didn't have guitars talked their folks into getting those, and even got the amplifiers and all of that went with it. And they did their practice at guess whose house? You remember? How about Pride, Berry, and Hey Jude? Do you still hear those in your sleep?
Yeah.
Oh boy, they never did become famous. The breaks just never came their way, the only reason though, but they played a few gigs. Their crowning glory as far as their playing on their band was a debutante cotillion ball at Washington High School when it was still an all-black school. And that was big time. They got paid for that. Oh, that was something. I could go on and on, but I still have to tell you about our third wonderful guy, and that's Randy Wayne. Now, he didn't mind being called Randy, but when you said Randy Wayne or Randall Wayne, boy, he got hopping fast because he knew what that meant. All brilliance and beauty, and we soon found out what a wonder he was. Wonder where he is now. Wonder what he's doing this minute. Wonder what he's found to climb. Wonder what he's going to do next. And they'd get out to build, and Daddy would put his bracing bit down, and here would come Randy along, and he'd, pretty soon he knew just how to work it. Go right through the piece of wood, no telling what Daddy was going to build with it, but he could work it. Saw it too, couldn't he?
Yeah.
Legs off the table and all that sort of stuff.
I've never had tools since then.
I haven't had a tool since then. But when he was 7 years old, let's see, he was so busy, but you could see in his mind, you see, in his mind, he never wanted to be he never wanted to be born 0 or 1 year old or all. He wanted to be born 7 years old at least, because that's how old Gary was. So from then on, he wanted to be at least 7 years old and to do the things that they did. Being little was such a bore to him. He wanted to be and do big things. When he was 3 years old, I found him one day with his little yellow bicycle down on the sidewalk down in front of the house, and he had him the hammer, and he had turned his bicycle upside down and took that hammer and had hammered his training wheels up and was riding up and down that sidewalk all by himself. He didn't need anybody's help. He could do things. Just leave him alone and let him do it. And but when he was about a year old, one day we heard this commotion in there and ran in there to see, and he had climbed up on Gary's bed and then up onto the desk part that led up to little shelves, and evidently his foot slipped off and he fell, and when we found him, he was screaming his head off in the middle of the floor, and he had a gash across his chin that took 10 stitches to close up. But he lived through that too. And when he went to kindergarten, he didn't want to go to kindergarten. He wanted to go to junior high. But they wouldn't let him go. But when they would sing the songs at kindergarten, he'd come in a day from kindergarten, and he'd sit right down to the piano, and whatever they sung that day, he'd pick it out on the piano. And he didn't want to go to school. And I'd tell him, well, if you don't, he never did care too much about going to school, just tell the whole truth of it. But he'd say he was sick. Oh, I don't feel good this morning. I'd say, I got to see the fever on that thermometer before you can stay at home. So it didn't take him long to wise up. He'd take that thermometer and he'd either go in the bathroom and hold it under the hot water, or we had a heater downstairs. He'd go hold it over the heater until he could run that mercury up pretty high. But I caught on to him about as fast as he did the thermometer. He went out for boys club football too, but he was about 2 pounds too light, and because we knew what the weight had to be. So that afternoon that he was going to go and weigh in, I think he had to weigh 68 pounds, I believe is what it was. But anyway, that afternoon he ate a bunch of bananas, and I don't mean, just maybe 1 or 2, a bunch of bananas, and drank a milkshake, and anything that would weigh, he ate it and poked it in. And then we went down and he got on the scales. Oh boy, he made it, just barely, but he made it. And he also made it back to the car, where the bananas and the milkshake and all recycled itself right then and there. And then when he went out, first time he went out practicing pads, and they gave him helmets and pads, and the coach said, see that guy out in front of you? You hit him right in the stomach.
Put that helmet in
Put that helmet right in his stomach, which Randy immediately did. He backed off, give it a run and go, and he hit him right in his stomach. Whammo, right at the top of his head. Well, it laid him out, both of them, just about it. But it nearly broke Randy's neck because he had hit him. Coach didn't bother to say, hit him with your pads or hit him somewhere. It was hit him with that helmet, and that's what he did. And that was his only football practice. But he started band in the 6th grade, drums of course, and was good enough that when he got to the 7th grade in junior high, he was accepted in the band. He was some good on drums and played all the way through high school. Even won a scholarship to Tech on drums, which he declined. But in the meantime, he had got interested in junior high. He got interested in photography. I don't remember even what got him interested in it, but he started reading photographer magazines, and then little Rocky had to have a camera, a good camera. So we bought him a good camera, and he started making pictures. Well, then he had to have the darkroom equipment, because we had to set up a darkroom so that he could develop his pictures. And so And so we did that. And so he got really good at it. And then he decided, he come in one day and announced that he was going to take flying lessons. And I said, flying lessons? How are you going to afford flying lessons? We're not paying for flying lessons. And he said, well, I'll just earn the money myself. And I said, indeed you will. So he used his photography business, and he'd go and take pictures of all the girls down at high school and develop them and enlarge them and all that and sell them to them, and that put him through. Then he'd go take another flying lesson. Of course, we had to buy all the chemicals and all the paper and all the stuff to go with it. But anyway, he did put himself through his flying lessons and soloed when he was just barely 16. And there's lots more I could tell you about him and all of this, but we got another one we got to tell you about. That's Tammy Jill. She weighed 8 pounds 5 ounces and born April the 22nd, 1962. Black hair, brown eyes, and you could tell right off she was smart, and she was so pretty. And Sherry and I were both on cloud 9. We had us a little girl. Now we had caught up with the rest of them. We could hold our own now. We had, oh my Coke Smith, please. We had 3 guys in the house, and now we had 3 girls in the house. Sherry was so bound and determined that she was going to be a girl that the first thing I remember when I was trying to come out of twilight sleep, anesthesia that I had had when she was born, every time my eyelids would flutter, well, Sherry was standing by my bed and she'd go, Mommy, it's a little girl. Mommy, it's a little girl. And it was like I was down in a well, and I could hear her, but I couldn't respond. But every time my eyelids would flutter, well, that's what she would say to me. And so I finally came to enough to respond to her. But when Tammy was in kindergarten, she was having a birthday party on her 5th birthday. Well, she got up that morning with mumps. Oh, how dreadful. We had the party anyway. She stayed up in her room and looked out over the side yard and waved to the kids and opened her presents and from her window, and they all sang happy birthday and had the refreshments outside, and she had hers too. And so we had our birthday party. It was kind of we didn't call it off. We had a birthday party anyway. It was a good party. And she was always so tiny. She was so much smaller than all the other kids. I'm gonna go back just a minute, and then I'm gonna tell you about her size and all. But I must tell you about how we got things done at our house. When Randy and Tammy were about, maybe 3 or 4 years old, they wanted a playhouse in the backyard. And we had some old paneling up in the attic, and so we drug it down, and we had 3 trees in the backyard. One was spaced here, here, here. And so we took those panels, and we got us some nails, and Randy and I hammered in the nails, and we left space to crawl under and all. And so we had us a playhouse, sort of triangular, but it was a playhouse. And if you look real hard, you could tell it's what. Well, you could. Well, when Daddy come home that Friday, went out in the backyard, he said, "What in the world is this?" Randy and Tammy said, "It's a playhouse, Daddy." And he said, "Ah."
It's a contraption.
And he said, oh, the things he said and the things he didn't say was more like it. But you know, we'd been wanting that playhouse a long time. He'd been promising us a playhouse. But you know what happened on Monday morning? He started hauling in lumber. He started a playhouse, and we got playhouse. That's what it is when you get motivated. He had to get motivated so he could get that contraption out of his yard. But he built the playhouse, and it was great. I mean, it had windows. You pull them shut, and it had doors, and it had the little sink and everything in there. And the neighborhood kids, oh, we was the envy of the neighborhood. We had a playhouse. Okay, now I'm going to tell you about Tammy. When she was in the first grade, she was in Miss Callahan's room that year, and the Chamber of Commerce decided to bring in these big, professionally decorated floats. And 2 kids from each room was going to get to ride on the floats. So there was a big discussion as how they were going to choose the kids. So Miss Callahan was down in the office, and she was talking to the other first grade teacher and the principal, and they said, how are we going to decide who's going to ride on the floats out of the first grade? So we got to have somebody that we can depend on, and somebody that won't misbehave, and somebody that won't fall off the floats. And both teachers said, Tammy Wagner and Lynn Bradley. And they're the ones that rode the float. There was Tammy in her little white fur coat, and her little white fur muff, and her little white fur hat, and her little red leotard. She just looked adorable. Lynn had on a little red sport coat and a little navy pants, and he was the cutest thing. And boy, they sat up there on their bale of hay, and they didn't move. And they were so cute. And Tammy started band in the 6th grade with flute, and by the 8th grade she tried out for majorette and made it. Mr. Endell, the band director, was so fond of her that he said she would have made it no matter what she did. He called her Buddy from the TV series starring Christy McNichols, whose main worry was that she was never going to develop to look like a girl, you know. That was Tammy's worry too. But she had a ball in band. She was so little they could hide her under the tuba, and then or anywhere else, and then when they were just playing around. And in high school band, to find a uniform to fit her, they had to use the little demonstrator that the band company sends them to select their band from, and it was a size 1. But that's the size that she wore all the time that she was in high school. And you could look out when the band assembled on the field, you could look out, and when you found this one that was down about like this, you knew there was Tammy right away. She was big on dramatics, had parts in several thespian plays, but she had the lead in Cactus Flower. She received a dozen or so bud vases filled with flowers and a cactus plant, and had a t-shirt that said, I was in Cactus Flower.
I think she's written this and then added on.
Oh, I haven't in every direction. Anyway, Tammy graduated, wear the gold, National Honor Society banner and all of that, and she went to OBU. And but she was the envy of all the kids at OBU, because by this time Randy had progressed from the little planes and needed multi-engine time. So instead of trying to rent a plane for all of this, well, Daddy had bought a twin-engine plane.
No.
We did?
No.
No.
To get his hours that he needed, he just needed a high performance, so we bought a single engine, 4-seater.
Was that what it is? A single engine?
Single engine.
See, that's what I brought you along for. Okay, but what I started to tell you before I stretched my story just a little bit was that when it would come time to decorate the Christmas tree, well, Tammy was always a big one for helping to decorate the Christmas tree. So Randy would fly up to Arkadelphia and get her and fly her home, and we would decorate the Christmas tree, and then he'd fly her back to OBU. So she was kind of the envy of everybody there. But when Sherry was in Henderson, she was the only one there that Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny still visited, so she had quite a distinction also. I liked it.
The first Christmas that Charlie's, after they...
yeah, I'm going to talk about that too.
Okay, I'll let you go.
But Anyway, now, hold on, you see, I'm going to tell you about multiplication. And then I'm just going to have to go back and show you those pictures because I can't keep interrupting my story and going back and do it, but I'll go back and show them to you one by one. When Sherry finished college and was teaching at the Air Base School in Jacksonville, Arkansas, this is where she met this handsome Lieutenant Charles Vandeventer. She brought him home to look us over. Well, we must have passed because she brought him back again for the real test. She brought him to spend Christmas. That's how you find out if one's serious or not, because Christmas was some occasion at our house. The first shocker he got was that when he got up, he found that it must have been for him because when he got up Christmas morning, he found out Santa Claus had been to see him also. You should have seen the look on his face. But now for the real test, we always all went to my mom and Papa Daddy's for Christmas lunch, where the whole clan, about 40 of us, gathered, all were talking at once and all looking over Sherry's new guy. Would he stay or would he run? He made it like a true officer and a gentleman. He stayed. But wait, the test is not over yet. We still had another Christmas to go, remember? We had to go to my mom and Papa Wagnon's. Same procedure, about the same number of relatives. And when my mom met him the first time, and Sherry told her that he was from Vermont, which we had been keeping quiet about. Now, dear, sweet, clean-mouthed Mama, the clean-mouthed person that she was, she said, "Oh, one of them damn Yankees, huh?" Now, being raised in the South the way she was, she didn't even know that was two separate words. To her, that just went together like black-eyed peas or something like that. Just damn Yankee, black-eyed peas, whatever. All went like a real gentleman. He looked a little startled, but he didn't run. Well, we knew then that we might as well start picking out wedding invitations. He had faced the firing squad and he had came through. So in June of that year, and I was going to look that up. Anyway, they were married at the chapel.
At our age, you forget dates. You're lucky to remember yesterday.
That was one of the things I had on my, let's see. They've been married 3 years when Kevin was born, and Kevin's going to be 20, so that
I think we figured it out that it was 1970. 1970.
Somewhere along there.
No, 73.
Okay. Anyway, they were married at the chapel at the Air Base in Jacksonville. Now, this was our first meeting with Charlie's parents, our beloved Marge and Wilton, and of course, Vicki and Bill. The whole occasion was one to remember, starting out with the bridesmaid luncheon that day before, which Carol and Judy and Beth, my nieces, came to Little Rock and put on. Marge was always so prim and proper, and so when the time came to go, she sent Wilton to the bedroom since she was a cripple, to get her purse and her white gloves so she could just look so fashionable. Mother of the groom, she had to make a good impression at the luncheon. When we got back from the luncheon, she looked down and discovered she had worn her old house dress. Marge, her little print cotton house dress, made kind of like a duster fashion. It took us a while to calm her down. Then the night of the dress rehearsal, Charlie began to try to get dressed. Well, he had stopped smoking, and so he had put on weight, and he started trying to put on his clothes and without realizing how much weight he had put on, and nothing would button around him. And he'd try on a pair of pants and a coat, and he'd throw it aside. Nothing would button around him. So he finally found one pair of slacks and a sport coat, and that's what he finally settled on. But he was in some state of panic by the time he got to that rehearsal dinner. Now comes the wedding day. Bill was to be his best man. Now, Bill's his brother. and to be his best man. And when he started to dress in his tux, he realized that he had left his dress shoes at home. Oh, no problem. Charlie had 2 pair. He wore black officer shoes. He had 2 pair. Bill, you wear my good ones, and I'll wear my old ones, and so everything will be fine. So which they did. Only thing was, it was a Catholic wedding, and it was kneeling about half the time. So Charlie's old shoes, there he was with his old shoes, and they had holes about the size, between a nickel and a quarter in the bottom of each shoe. It looked like 2 eyes looking at you all the time he was kneeling. It was really a scream, and the stupid photographer didn't get it for us on film. And they just stuck out like eyes looking at you. Now Randy was the ring bearer, and now being the doer that he was, we had warned him that he had better stand still, very still, and not move around, and he did just like we told him to. But he must have really locked his knees and concentrated so much on being good that about halfway through the ceremony he fainted. Not crumpled down, mind you. He fell like a tree. Wham! He hit one of the brass urns that it was held the urn, knocked it over, and there he was, stretched out straight onto the floor. Well, Bill just reaches down to pick him up and turn with him. By that time, his daddy had got there to get him, but as Bill reached down to pick him up, he heard this rip. It was the seat of his pants. And Bill realized that it was, and he stood for the rest of the ceremony kind of twisting from one side to the other, wondering how much of him was exposed, how many was he mooning back there. But anyway, they made it through. And do you know, not one time did anyway, court got to him and brought him back to his seat. And fortunately, Bill's coat did cover the spot, so you couldn't even tell it. It was just more in Bill's mind than anything else. But the priest didn't bother him either, because he just kept mumbling and going and right on. So and drinking wine and mumbled some more, drink some more wine. But he must have done a pretty good job of it, because it's lasted 23 or 24 years. And now we had a great son-in-law that we were so proud of. Okay, about 3 years later, the Air Force sent Charlie to Cheyenne, Wyoming. They were expecting their first child, our first grandchild, mind you. Man, that was going to be a special time. He was due about the 7th of December, and we just could not wait. Well, they called home and told us that she called and said that Charlie was going to be sent TDY, which was off on assignment, and so could I come on up there then and not wait until she went into labor or anything, so to be with her. Now I want you to know that I had never been on an airplane, and I was to fly all by myself to Cheyenne, Wyoming. Just one thing would get me on that plane, and to be there when that first grandbaby arrived. I had to change planes at Denver. Now this was an occasion for me, but mind you. So the plane from Denver to Cheyenne the first place was late. I mean, from Little Rock to Denver was late, and so that meant that I had to really rush it the full length down Stapleton Airport at Denver to catch the little hedge hopper. What was the name of that? I had it. Anyway, the one to Cheyenne. Anyway,
Frontier.
Frontier Airlines. Oh yeah, that's the one that went into to Cheyenne. And so here I was, already running late. That plane was going to leave without me. There I would be stranded in that big port and what was I going to do. And I was full blast down that way. I run the whole length of Stapleton Airport. I run up to the desk that said Frontier, and I said, when does the plane leave for Cheyenne? They said, you see right out there on that tarmac, you see those stairs they're fixing to pull up? That's the one that's leaving for Cheyenne. So I just dashed down the stairs and ran out there and ran up the stairs, and here I just plopped down in the first seat that was that I got to, which happened to be right behind the captain. And I was huffing and puffing and thanking my lucky stars that I had made the plane, and I was still panting and blowing, and all of a sudden this voice came over the loudspeaker and says, ladies and gentlemen, fasten your belts. We're now landing at Cheyenne. And I thought, landing at Cheyenne? Well, they could have just left me alone. I could have been there by now. I had a full head of steam, and I was heading that direction. But anyway, we got there. And then I must get on down here. But I must get down here because I'm about to tell you about when our first grandchild arrived. But Charlie did go on the assignment. He came back, and there was Sherry still hadn't gone into labor, and we waited. We walked. We played games. We cleaned house. We did everything we did, but we couldn't shake that little rascal loose. I mean, we played every game, and they had a mess of them. We played every game we could find, but we learned not to play word games with Charlie because Charlie decided that we cheated too bad, and he wouldn't play with us. He quit playing. But anyway, the 19th of December, well, Court and Gary and Randy and Tammy were going to come on out. So, and we were expecting them the next day. So, maybe I would read this a little bit. So when they got there, they got in a day early.
We just got there early that day.
Earlier than
before
we
noon.
were expected, because they drove all night. That's what happened. Y'all drove all night. Well, Sherry was still up and going, so we were invited to a little Christmas party down around the corner, about 2 blocks. And so we had just walked down there and was enjoying the party. And when they got there and found the house all locked up, well, you can go ahead and tell them about what y'all did when you found us all locked. They just knew she was in labor.
You gonna tell her or I'm gonna tell her?
You're gonna tell her. Go ahead.
Well, we got there. It was about 11 o'clock in the morning, and so they were not home. So I figured, well, she's finally gone to the hospital. So we finally found the hospital, and that's our first time to Cheyenne. So we finally got we found the hospital, and it was snow. It had been a heavy snow that week, and it was a little difficult getting around. But we got to the hospital. We went to the hospital, and no, they didn't have any Sherry Vanderbilt there. So we went back to the house, and the kids they were out playing in the snow.
Just having a ball.
And we were just Gary and I were sitting in the car waiting for them to finally come back or whatever. And finally somebody looked out the window and said, and saw us. And they had gotten back while we were gone.
Yeah. We looked out and we thought, gosh, look at those kids out there playing on the lawn. They look familiar. It was Gary and Randy and Tammy out playing snowballs, because we had walked back in, come in the house, and there we were. Well, anyway, we went right on up until Christmas Eve, looking every minute for that grandchild to decide. Well, he decided he wanted to get there in time for Christmas. So about 10 minutes until 12 that night, he arrived. Wow. Look at that. Isn't that the most wonderful sight you've ever seen in your life? Talk about beautiful. 9 pounds and 5 ounces and brown-eyed, gorgeous. Hey, everybody, come see our grandson. Sure, the pretty one. That's ours. Hey, nurse, have you seen the beautiful brown-eyed doll in the nursery? That's our grandchild. Kevin John Vanderbilt, 9 pounds, 5 ounces. We didn't remember much about Christmas Day, except that we all had flat noses from standing and marveling at the wonderful little creature that God sent us for Christmas. That feeling could never happen again. We were sure, our hearts were so full, surely we could never feel like this again. And didn't until 2 years later, God blessed us with little Jeffrey Charles Van Deventer. There's that feeling all over again. The most beautiful baby in the nursery. Smart too, ain't he? Gosh, there's nothing as silly as the grandmother with 2 wonderful grandsons. We had everything. Well, not quite. During Gary's senior year at Tech, he began to bring home this pretty blonde, shy girl. I'm not sure we gave her the whole family treatment. Maybe at Easter, I can't remember, but I'm sure it must, because the time was not have corresponded with that for to go on at Christmas time. But anyway, he had been to Houston to meet her family, and so before he graduated, they announced their engagement. We tried to tactfully suggest that maybe they should put it off until after he graduated and got a job. How absurd can you be? He'd have a degree and a job. It was sure to come with it. The degree came, but the good job didn't. And not anything. Anyway, the wedding took place in Houston in June 1976. Now we were to get to meet Frank and Bibi, Nancy's mother and daddy, in person. We had talked to them on the phone and written back and forth, but now we were going to officially get to meet them. You see, when they first started coming in and talking about the plans for the wedding and all the colors, you know, the tux and would be and all that they were wearing and what color quartz was going to be, well, just in his usual manner, I think he said, "Not me, I'm not wearing any tux. I'm not going to be a member of the wedding party. Why should I wear a tux?" Well, when they relayed this to Bibi, she nearly flipped out. I'm sure she thought that, what kind of a hick family is Nancy marrying into? And then we met them on rehearsal night, and we found out that she was really nice, just out of her head with worry, just knowing something would not go right by the book. The book told her just what she was to do, and it had to be done just that way. And I have never seen anyone so scared or so nervous. The day of the wedding, all went well, except Bibi had Nancy nearly climbing the wall. She said, "Please keep my mother away from me, or I'm going to kill her with my bare hands." That minister must have tied a pretty good knot, since it's held for about 17 years. And then we found out Bibi always goes bananas when she is the mother of the bride. By the way, they had a real shocker, Gary and Nancy did. That is, remember, degree, good job, no sweat. Well, they found out that the job did not come with the degree, and contrary to all you've heard, you can't live on love for long without 1 or 2 of Mom and Dad's credit cards to go along with it. So they lived with us for a while he tried an insurance job that involved traveling and gasoline money every day, and finally Carl Garrett persuaded him to take a job up with him in his store, which was a good move on his part. 3 or so years later, they bought their first house with a lot of help from Carl, and then came 1980. A very memorable year. February 2nd, little grandson number 3. You would have sworn he was the first baby ever born. We were so excited. Tammy had gone to Ruston that day to some kind of a school thing, and they were to spend the night, and she called a dozen times to see if the baby had come yet. Randy and Chris were living in Monroe, so they came tearing up there, and they stopped by at Farmville and brought Mama with them, and we looked like a convention in the waiting room. And finally, she had a C-section, and out came this little red-headed, blue-eyed, 9-pound, 5-ounce baby boy, Christopher Brian Wagner. Beautiful, and you could just see he was going to be brilliant, which he is, of course. Somewhere in here, I have missed some graduations, like Randy's graduation in 1979. He decided not to go to college, so I told him he indeed was not, unless it was his idea that I had spent 4 years trying to get him to get up and go to school, high school. Meanwhile, he had gone in, well, I went in and told you about the photography a little while back, so I'm not going to do that. And so I got to skip on down because I have repeated myself. So see, I did this while I was working. Y'all all thought I was working, but I was playing. Okay. Anyway, he was while he was after he had his flying lessons, he took a job out at the airport at the ticket agent. And he stayed with that a while, and then he went to work for them as travel agent. Well, he got tired of that pretty quick, so he got himself fired from that, and then he went to Burger King. Went to work at Burger King. And now, here comes an important occasion. He met Chris, and before I even knew they were dating, he announced to me that they were going to get married. But not to worry, he wouldn't be for a year or two anyway. We tried to explain that they were too young and no job that would pay enough to take care of them, much less that they they were too young, but they were going to wait. So the next day or so, the plans had all changed. Chris's mom had gone down and signed for them to get a license and took them to pick out a wedding dress, tuxedo, and plan the whole caboodle. And then they told me about it. Now, I just about had kittens, but the wedding did take place on December 29, 1979. And now, I must confess, it was one of the smartest things that he's ever done up to now. It brought Chris into our lives, and 1 year later, May 7th, 1981, brought a beautiful 9-pound, 4-ounce Randall Preston Wagner. Beautiful, smart, grandson number 4. Oh, we were so proud. We were on a roll. 4 of the most beautiful babies in the whole world. But where were the girls? Okay, here they come. Nancy's pregnant again, and now we get to get out all of our girl clothes, and we're going to have a granddaughter this time. So on June 23rd, 1982, Alan Michael Wagner arrived. Look at those big brown eyes, and have you ever seen lashes so long? Our beautiful Alan. Grammy had to call him Bambi eyes because they were so sweet and gorgeous. Look how intelligent he is, and why he knows us already as we stand with our noses all flat against the nursery window. Wow, grandson number 5. But where were the girls? Oh wait, it's 1983, and Chris is pregnant again. We get out the girl clothes. So Nancy passes the big box of girl clothes back to Chris. Now they've gone from Sherry to Nancy, and now to Chrissy. Pink, pink, pink. So on September the 16th, 1983, Meredith Elise Wagner came into this world, and she weighed 8 pounds. I didn't check the number of ounces, but she was under 9 pounds, so that's what we'll have to say about her. Blue-eyed, chubby cheeks, and absolutely beautiful. And now we had a granddaughter. Took 5 boys to get to her, but she was worth the wait. Now realize we put the high chair and baby bed into use in 1980. So we had one in 1980, Christopher. One in 1991, Randall. One in 1982, Alan. One in 1983, Meredith. Then the old high chair had its work out. With 4 little ones, we had a lively, wonderful time. But wait, it's 1986, and Nancy's pregnant again. Alan is 4 years old, and he is sure they don't need a baby at their house. He insisted, we don't want no baby. But July the 29th, 1986, Lauren Michelle Wagner was born. Just gorgeous, brown-eyed, black hair, just smart. Oh, she's as smart as you could tell. And we got the most beautiful, smartest bunch of grandkids in the world. 5 boys and 2 girls. How lucky can you get? Now, let's back up to 1985. Tammy's teaching at the First Baptist Church School at Hot Springs. She meets this big-time insurance man. You know, suit, briefcase, call, all that stuff. And they started dating, but almost not. The first thing he did was he sent her a big bouquet of old, dried up, thrown away flowers that he had picked up from the back of a nursery, a florist. I'm not sure exactly what his thinking was, but I'm sure it was well thought out. The next thing he did was he went to the school where she was working, where she worked, and he told them that he was from Governor Clinton's office, and that he was there to check out the certification of mainly the NTE that they all had to pass of a Miss Wagner. Did they have one working there? Did they have a teacher teaching there by that name? Well, the principal just about scared her out of her wits until he told her different. And all of this, and Tammy went out with him anyway. I guess she wanted to see what he would come up with next. Of course, she's still trying to figure that one out. Anyway, along about September, they got engaged. He put her engagement ring in a dish of ice cream that he was serving. I don't know what he would have done if she had swallowed it. The engagement would probably have had to been waited until the ring showed up again. But she found it in time, and they were married November 23rd, 1985. That also brought a couple of wonderful people into our lives, Joe and Irma Hatcher. 2 of the nicest people in the whole world. And they were in a state of shock that Tammy was going to take take him seriously and actually marry him. Successful, mischievous, very serious businessman, but only as long as he's in his business suit. And then he was all fun-loving, always moving. Greg was such a joy, sort of a cross between Dennis the Menace and Sam Walton. But he also did something else with Tammy's help that produced our 3rd little granddaughter, Miss Kelsey Brooke Hatcher, 9 pounds 7 ounces, gorgeous, brown-eyed, black hair, and you could just see the intelligence. She's never been satisfied being her age either. She always acted older, say about 18 or so, and now could anyone dare ask for more? 5 grandsons, 3 granddaughters. Anyone has to agree that beautiful girls and handsome boys and intelligence really runs in our family. We've loved every one of them from the minute we laid eyes on each and every of them. Always the magic of the first time was there. Your heart just stretches with love and pride. How much luck can one couple have? 4 wonderful sons, 4 wonderful daughters, 5 grandsons, 3 granddaughters. Our cup does truly runneth over. But hold it, there's more to come. October 7th, 1993, God sent us twin girls, Larkin Kathleen and Haley Catherine Hatcher. Larkin 5 pounds 1 ounce, Haley 6 pounds. Twins from Greg and Tammy. Talk about gorgeous, and we're still in shock. Twins. Oh, I always wanted twins, and now we have them from our baby. When you begin anything like this, there is no place even for a cutoff. So many remembrances from each one. Kevin always happy and smiling and loving books and music and loving football, and even got to play 2 years football before his big graduation in 1982 on June 11th. Jeff, the word mischief was coined, I'm sure, to describe Jeff. When he was in kindergarten, he hated how often the teacher thought that he should go and counsel with old Mr. Father Kane. And we never quite understood why, but Ms. Ford, his kindergarten teacher, and old Mr. Father Kane both retired the next year. Coincidence? I'm sure that's what it was. Graduation this year is still just as graduation this year, and is still just as spunky and full of it. Loves football and is so good at it, and so good at wrestling, and all around great kid. Christopher from age 2 was our entertainer. I set him up a set of tin cans and as a drum set, and everything was a microphone, and he's been outstanding in OM and in school, and is scientific minded, and goes into high school next year, and so big and handsome, and will help change the world, I'm sure. Randall has always been a busy one. At 2, he was Superman, and he would go to his room, put on his Superman suit, and then his Boss Hog 3-piece suit over it. He loves all sports, no schoolwork, and that dimple in his cheek melts all the girls down to putty. Alan, dear Alan, so laid back and content just to watch TV. He got that from his daddy, I'm sure. Soccer's his favorite sport, and now he's into playing drums in the 6th grade band. He's big in OM too, still has eyes like Bambi, and is as happy as they come. Meredith is a quiet, shy one. She hardly spoke until she was up into school, and she was so shy but so studious she could add a column of figures before she started to school. She loves dancing and TV. Lauren, little brown-eyed Lauren, sweet, smart, good in school, and has lots of friends. Just a happy, well-adjusted little doll. Kelsey, 3 3/4, going on 21. She has known her numbers and her ABCs, all the little songs, since she was about 1.5 years old. She is the performer and has the imagination to equal range Sherry's at that age. She's Dolly Parton one moment and Ariel the next, just a doll, and she knows exactly how to keep Grampy and Granddaddy both hopping. She's a natural born boss. Now Larkin and Haley are still so new, but are so sweet and cuddly, and the best babies in the world. I remember I was just a pre-teenager, and I wished upon a star one time, and I dreamed that this little green-eyed man came down, and he told me I could have 3 wishes. So I wished to meet my handsome prince and get married and live happily ever after and be rich. Well, I married my handsome prince and have been happy with him for over 50 years. So not long ago, I ran into that little green man again, and I told him about my wish, and I said, and how they had all come true, but I was also supposed to be rich. Now where was my money? He said, now who told you that you have to have money to be rich? You have your riches in love multiplied many, many times. You have health and have lived a long life, and what more can you ask? So now I see, God has granted us more than any 2 people could ever hope for in such a lovely, lovely, loving family, and we are so proud of. Now this is not the end of my once upon a time, but only the beginning. May all of you know that great fortune is to love and to be loved, and as we have the ability to know it, that love is the most important gift that God has ever given you. You make the most of it, but always remember to put the love of God first. We love you. Your mom and daddy love every one of you. And now I'm going to I'm going to get the pictures and I'm going to show you some of the pictures from the past. Did I have the Sherry picture a while ago? Get there in front of the mic, the thing, and talk on for just a minute.
What am I going to talk about? You've said everything.
Oh, I haven't. You'd think I have.
You've said a lot.
Well, I said a lot, yes.
Anyway, that's the piano. That's the piano that it's looking at.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh, I did have some pictures of Sherry. Our beginning family. Isn't that wonderful? Oh yes, I know where the pictures are. I have them all the time. Our first, Kevin John, grandson number 1. Jeff, grandson number 2. Isn't he handsome? Christopher, our little red-headed Groundhog Day boy. Randall, can you see that dimple? Alan, look at that. Look at that drooly. Look at those big Bambi eyes. Isn't he gorgeous? Meredith. This is not her baby picture, but this is when she was about a year old. She lost a little of her baby fat and got her a little hair by then. Norrin. The double chins and all. Isn't that sweet? Maybe I better come up a little closer with Lauren. Kelsey. Isn't that something? This is also Kelsey. 7 months. The twins, Hailey and Larkin.
Back up a little. It'll be hard to see them.
I know. But this is the biggest pictures we have of them right now. And here is one when they were even newer. This is about 3 days old. Okay, 50th anniversary. Okay, I never did find Sherry's. I had a baby picture. I got, look at one of those albums, I got a jillion of her. Gary, a year old. Randy, about 2 years old. Tammy, a year old. I showed you Sherry's baby one. I remember that.
Yeah, I thought you did.
Kelsey, now, the age she is now. Tammy, high school graduation. Where are the gold? Randy, yes, he graduated. Gary's graduation.
We couldn't afford big pictures.
Gary and Nancy's wedding party. Randy and Chris' wedding. Sherry's wedding. Tammy's, wait a minute, I've got an envelope full of Tammy's here somewhere. I've got so many of these mounted on the wall. This is Tammy and Greg's wedding. Cutting the wedding cake. This is Tammy and her maid of honor. This is the girls in the wedding party. Ah, this is the whole shebang. I have to show you that. This is the kids that we had during their wedding.
Back up a little. I think it's blurry where that is.
See if I have any more here that I just have to show you.
They'll all get tired and shut this sucker off.
Christopher and Alan. Kevin, about 6 months old. Anyway, okay. Kevin in his football Lakers outfit. Jeff in his. And we could go on, but as Grampy says, you're probably tired of it by now. But we wanted to share with you and tell you that we do have pictures of all of you. And it's been a long, exciting time.
Wait a minute, you're not even on camera.
No,
I'm
you're
only
not
getting the middle.
Huh?
All I'm getting of you is the middle.
Oh, don't get the middle. Don't get the middle.
Now you can finish
Yeah,
up.
I can finish up.
Yeah.
Okay. I will just finish up with telling you that it's been a long, eventful life, and this just hits the highlights of it. But we love every one of you, and if we could just tell you how much, it would just be positively wonderful. But I hope we haven't bored you to tears. But this is the end, as all good once upon a times has to say. Kevin was about 6 or 8 months old at the time.
What we're doing, we're having to redo some of these because
some of you've seen before, but some of them
it was on the stand before, and we couldn't get. Now moved over to
Jeff. This was made out in the yard when he was just when they lived in Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Okay,
he was about 6 months old.
This is Christopher.
Here's Christopher when he was about 3 months old, little chubby wubby.
And here's Randall.
This is Randall. And Randall was about 8 or 9 months. Well, it was in December after he was born in April, and there he's got on Kevin's little red velvet suit that he wore when he was a baby.
This is Alan.
Next over is Alan. Next over is Meredith, and she was just getting close to a year old.
Okay.
And the next over is Lauren, the earliest one that we have of Lauren.
And this is Kelsey.
And this is Kelsey, the earliest bigger one that we have of her, and we're waiting for one of the twins. And
okay, you want to scan the bottom?
yeah, that'll be fine.
Okay, I'll just come on right to that because I'm having to shoot it at an angle from here.
Christopher and Alan and Lauren a year or two ago. And this is maybe the year before that, when Lauren was about 2 or 3.
Back to Lauren by herself.
Uh-huh.
Randall
and Meredith made about 3 years ago.
And Randall and Meredith again.
This is Kevin and Jeff.
I don't know who this young
and that Randy made these. And this was the winter that
I know you're going to have a shadow on that because I can see me in it.
But that's made the year that Kevin and Jeff and Sherry lived with us.
Here they are, and that
when
got to
Jeff
be
was
in.
just a teeny little one. They came here to visit us, and we had that made out at Walmart.
And here's
Christopher and Alan and Lloyd, an earlier one.
And
Kelsey Brooke.
Kelsey Brooke.
And next to her old pal, Kevin over there.
Kevin.
And then Jeffy. And then we're going to shut it off and go. And this is Gary's year-old picture. And Sherry's when she was about 4. And Tammy was about 3 over there. So Randall must have been 4 in this one over here because Tammy would have been 3. Then shoot that one up on the wall up yonder there. And this was the one that the girl drew of them when there was only 5 of them.
Kind of increased a little since then.
Yeah. Okay, we'll shut it off in here now.
That's everybody on them.
Well, you can't get it.
Can't see much of this might take, I don't know.
But that was when Randall fainted, right, and Sherry and Charlie's wedding, and this was coming, he came back up the aisle with Tammy after that. Okay. For Alan. So we've had a bunch of them after that.
And I'm shooting it kind of from the side so we don't have a light glare on it. Okay.
Okay. This is a picture of Gary and Nancy and them. It was made about a year or so ago. That's probably our latest picture of them. Okay.
Okay.
This is one you may not see very good, but it's one of Randy and Chris and made it the golden wedding anniversary.
Okay.
And this one was made a good while back, but that's a good picture of, that's before the boys got grown. Sherry and Charlie and Kevin and Jeff. This was made when there was just Tammy and Greg. No Kelsey, no Larkin, no Haley. Shut off just Tammy and Greg.
Okay.
Sherry and Charlie. Gary and Nancy. Tammy by herself. Randy and Chris. Now let's quit on them on that, because last year, this is Jeff after he's grown up and a big teenager. This is Christopher after he had won at the World OM.
Okay.
This one, let's go zoom down to the center. This was Jeff when he was the Cowardly Lion and Wizard of Oz.
Okay.
And this is Randall and Christopher and Alan one morning dressed up ready to go to church with us. Our 2 football heroes. And then I'm going to move it. Here's Lauren.
Wait a minute,
Okay.
I got to see if I can get in an area that I don't have a glare. Okay.
This is Lauren.
Next one.
Kelsey, about a year old.
Okay.
Meredith, about 5.
Okay.
Kelsey.
Yeah. Okay.
Lauren.
Okay.
Here's Meredith in her little Christmas outfit that I made them all alike that year.
Okay.
Here's Meredith in her dance costume when she was over at Arkadelphia.
Okay.
And this is Lauren and Kelsey.
And Kelsey's in
And there's Kelsey in the center. The twins, we don't have any very good ones of them yet. We're just having to show you what we do have. Okay. Here's another one of them that's very similar to that. Okay, then. Here is Kelsey and the 2 of them that you can see them with their eyes open a little bit. And then this one's pretty good of the two of them together.
Okay.
And here's one of and here they are together.
Okay.
Now, we're going to go back and do some that we're not sure we got the other day. And this is
Well, we know we did. We got part of.
Okay.
Okay,
That's Greg and Tammy cutting their wedding cake.
because we cut their heads off,
And
laid it
this-
on a stand.
And this is Tammy and Portia.
That's a repeat of one that we
Yeah.
didn't get all of it.
And this is one we know we had on there the other day, but it didn't show up, and it may not this time, but that's you.
Well, it showed up all right. We cut all their heads off.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And
But I'm holding it there. Maybe a little shaky.
and then
but-
this is a picture of Randy and Chris and Randall and Meredith, and that's the size they were when Tammy and Greg got married, because there's
Oh,
Meredith
that's
in her
their
little
wedding.
red velvet dress. This is Gary and Nancy's
Wedding.
wedding, and that's all of us.
Okay.
Okay. Now I'm gonna pull some of these real quickly out of the cellophane so that they don't make a glare. This is Gary at a year old. And this is Randy at a year old.
Okay.
And this is Tammy at a year old.
Okay.
And this is
Here we have.
Tammy and Greg before they had their brood. This is a rare picture of Randy and his children.
Did we have one of Sherry?
Huh?
Did we have one of Sherry when she was little?
Was she little?
Was? I
We
think
must
she
have-
was one time.
Yeah, I'll have to go back. I still haven't got it out, have
Okay,
I?
well, do that one of Kelsey that was in her little thing.
Oh, this is Kelsey,
We'll
and
cut her off in the other one.
and I'm gonna go back and get. Funny, I got tons of Sherry,
Okay.
but I didn't got any of them out.
Now, these are pictures that we've redoing, but they didn't just shoot it.
This is Randy and Chris and their wedding invitation and everything.
Okay.
Okay, this is proof that Randy did graduate.
Okay. We cut him off. We cut his head off.
Here was, I'm gonna pull the paper on this one because this is Sherry's graduation.
Okay. Okay.
And this is the father of this
Oh, we
brood.
didn't have to show that.
The father of this brood.
I wasn't there.
And this is Gary's graduation.
See if I can get it. I guess that's the best I'm gonna do. Okay.
And this is a picture that was made at Faith's wedding. That's the size that Randy and Tammy and Gary were at that time.
Lord, was skinny mini.
Now, Owen, and this is when she was in about the 3rd grade. This one down there is where she lost her first tooth. And the other one was a dress-up party when she was 7.
Okay.
You said this one of Tammy came out okay?
Yeah, that one's okay.
Okay, and this is Sherry at about 5.
Okay.
I'm gonna go get it. And Sherry is a senior.
This is mostly for Sherry because the rest of you we'll see it. But
Out of Randy's, of course,
and Randy,
because he's
He'll-
never seen the house, period.
well, he should be here sometime this month to see it. But this is what I've spent the last month working on. And I'm standing in what was our old den, shooting into the room that we
made out of the patio.
Get it out a little farther where you can see a little more.
And step where you can point out over here that the...
Now that's the doors that I took out of this archway that I'm almost standing in, and moved them out to that.
And the door.
And there's the door
into the laundry room.
That went into the laundry room.
That we hauled on top of our car from Tam and Greg's house.
And I'm going to move into the room now and kind of do the corner.
And shoot back in toward here.
And
shoot the window that you put in over there.
This little wall here where you can see a window, that's the wall that
was
open going out into the carport. Now that hole, I'm going to stop that up, but
that's where I'm going to put my stereo.
Hadn't got. Now I'm backing up into there. Now that's what was the den before. In there.
And the walls are all bare everywhere because we just got in here yesterday.
We just put it in yesterday, so we don't have any pictures. Well, much of nothing. We just got. We're going to rearrange the furniture, but we haven't yet. That was the step down.
And that couch in there we're going to get rid of.
And so this will kind of give you. It is 18 feet. From that door back to this brick wall, and it's 20 feet from that archway out to these doors. And I guess that'll tell you about all you.
And let's
oh well, now Mother, she's bought her own Christmas. That's a new lounge that she bought and was delivered yesterday. And there's a new sleeper that she bought, and it was delivered yesterday.
But see, it goes to fulfill the we promised each other. I did pick out and buy them, but we promised each other when we first got married that all the big decisions would be his, and all the little ones I would make all them. And I'm still going to keep that promise, because if any big ones ever come up, well, you can get to make them.
So far, there hasn't been any big ones in 50 years.
But let's just tell them Merry Christmas and quit it right here. So
okay.
Merry Christmas,
Merry Christmas to all of you.
And we love each and every one of you.
And this is all there is going to be. I ain't going to do no more.
Goodbye.
Bye.